I bought my degree, now I want my job. That's an interesting headline on a story that we get from the National Post, and Chris Spoke joins me now. Certainly there seems to be a belief, and maybe this has been oversold by parents and universities to young people. If you get your degree, then it's all sunshine, roses, and lollipops after that.
That's right, and I think historically that's been true. It's starting to fall apart now, and now we have this research paper that's kind of starting to indicate that.
Oh, do you think it's always been true? You graduate from, well, look, you graduate from university with a degree, you have a better chance than somebody who didn't finish high school.
That's right.
But I don't think you're guaranteed a job.
It was never guaranteed, but it was more commonly seen as the path to the middle class. Whereas now you have a lot of students, especially those in arts and humanities and social science, that aren't seeing any bump whatsoever in their pay post-university.
Well, I think you have a lot of employers who say, oh, you have an arts degree, that's very nice. Can you fix that machine? Like they don't, the employers aren't putting a value on that degree.
That's right. So often these students are being sold the value of a degree from the universities, which obviously have some interest in getting them to pay for their programs, but it's not translating to the labor market. So those fields that do have kind of demand are looking for more workers aren't being filled, whereas we have a lot of excess students coming out of these arts programs.
Well, they give an example of a student in an arts program told by a professor that when she graduated, she was going to make $80,000 a year.
That's right.
You know, maybe some will, but you'd probably be better off with a law degree if that's what you were hoping for.
That's right, and at the median, it's not realistic. So half the students surveyed in this study, which was linking academic entitlement to workforce entitlement, were arts and social science students, and a lot of them had these inflated expectations of what they could expect in the workforce, which probably won't come true for most of them.
But what they were also trying to say, I think, with this study was that if young people have a sense of entitlement coming out of school, they're going to have a sense of entitlement at work as well.
Yeah, so that's the correlation they found when surveying these 1,000+ students, and I think it's a pretty obvious one. If you're the type of person that would feel entitled to good grades regardless of your merit, you probably will feel entitled to a better salary regardless of your merit.
Well, part of what they did here, I think, was talk to students about how much time they spent fighting with their professors over what their grade should be.
That's right. Yeah, you have these students who are paying quite a bit of money, or their parents, and think that entitles them, again, to a good grade or to a, kind of an easy road throughout college. But obviously that's not true. Once you hit the labor force, you have to actually produce to get the results.
But I talked to a professor. She had written an article for Slate where she admitted to grade inflation, and I actually had her on my radio show. She teaches in St. Louis, Missouri, and she said that to a certain degree her career depended on happy students.
Yeah, it is a business, all right, and the product or service they're providing is this credential, the university diploma or degree. And the more students that they could get into that program, the more money the university makes. So you even have sites like RateMyProfessor.com, where professors are terrified of getting bad ratings. So they often, it does lead to grade inflation or to just lower workloads altogether. It's a pretty kind of weird system.
Sure. On the other hand, we have the story right here in Canada, in Edmonton, of a high school teacher who gave a 0 for the very simple reason that the assignment wasn't done. They fired the teacher. Like, that is so upside down, it makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, when we start valuing or placing more importance on the self-esteem of a student rather than their actual accomplishments, that's when you see this disconnect kind of leaving the artificial world or this kind of weird world of post-secondary education and to the real world of actually having to produce for your salary. And you're seeing a lot of people getting lost in the mix, and the transition's a lot more difficult to those that do feel entitled throughout the university career.
Well, you're still relatively young, I'm thinking.
Sure.
Okay, so what was it like with you and your friends in university? Did you see around you, or did you expect, hey, when I get out of here on June or whatever it is, I get a job?
I think we all kind of did, because we didn't have much to base our opinions on other than the talk of the other students, most of whom have this inflated sense of
none of whom knew what
value.
they were talking about?
Right, yeah. So I think it's kind of a natural transition in your early 20s to realize you're not maybe as special as your parents or teachers led you to believe. I studied a pretty worthwhile program, economics. So I think it worked out pretty well. Now I work at Sun News. But a lot of students who think that just learning the skill, kind of these skills of critical thinking or of questioning your assumptions, these kind of not really skills, but just in general knowledge, they have a lot harder time translating that into something they can market on the resume.
Well, I certainly know that many people will bring exactly that argument, that the purpose of going to university is not to prepare somebody to work in a factory. They're going to learn critical thinking.
Right.
And yes, lots of arts programs can teach you critical thinking, but I think some of those professors would be astounded to learn how little the captains of industry really care. care about that.
Right. And I would also
Not that
even
they don't want
question
critical thinking. They think, why didn't you learn critical thinking while you were also learning something more
elsewhere.
useful?
Yeah. And I think a lot of employers even question that premise that you are actually learning any critical thinking in most art programs. I think most people kind of come out of it prepackaged with these ideas that their professors kind of force-fed into them. So I don't think it really stacks up, and especially not as an employer when you're looking to actually pay someone to do something that will lead to revenue. These kind of immaterial assets don't really translate into anything real.
Yeah, but this also doesn't mean we should just drop all the arts programs in universities.
I don't think so. My personal opinion is maybe we shouldn't subsidize them to the same extent as real hard skills that have labor market demand. So if you want to go and study 16th century Romanian poetry and the critical thinking skills that come with that, sure, do it, but do it on your own dime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Either that, or maybe we could actually get a little more subsidy in some cases from some industries for some of the other programs.
That's right. If subsidies were weighted more towards the labor market demand of various programs, I think we'd have much better outcomes, much lower youth unemployment rates, and the kind of skills mismatch, which we've been hearing a lot about, would largely be diminished, at least if not disappear.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.